Hello again, everybody. It's Todd Staruch, the horror nerd, here at New Jersey HorrorCon at the New Jersey Expo Center in Edison, New Jersey. I'm having a blast, as always, at this convention, and it is about to get better. The word legend gets thrown about fairly liberally all the time, but I do have the distinct pleasure of sitting here with a true Hollywood legend, Academy Award-winning makeup and effects artist, Ve Neill. Ve, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So how has the show been for you so far? You having a good time?
Oh, yeah, and so far it's terrific. It's gotten off to a pretty gosh darn great start. I bet you number one, so.
Well, there you go. You may as well get on a plane and go home
I'm done.
because this is the pinnacle of the weekend.
It can't get any better.
Right here, absolutely. So I admit I am having a fanboy moment.
Okay.
We talked before we got on camera. My daughter and I used to watch Face Off religiously, and she knew you were going to be here, and she's like, "Oh my God, Dad, we got to meet Ve Neill." So I almost don't even know where to start. Why do you keep looking at my head?
Am I making you nervous?
No, not at all. No, I'm just like, is there a bug? Is there a spider on my head or something?
Am I looking?
No,
I'm just looking all over the place.
It's okay.
My eyes are jutting around.
I almost don't even know where to start because you have such a storied career. But was it from an early age that you knew you wanted to get into show business?
Well, no, at an early age, I knew I wanted to be a makeup artist.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm way down here.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit better?
Doesn't have to be too close.
I totally forgot I had to hold the thing.
Well, normally I would do it, but it gets a little awkward back and forth. So.
No, I mean, I knew from the time I was 5 years old that I wanted to be a makeup artist. My next door neighbor was a makeup artist, and I mean, you know, he would make me up every Halloween with his daughter, who was my best friend, and it was always like, "Oh yeah, I want to do what you do, Mr. Latino, when I grow up." And it was like, "Yeah, sure, kid." You know, because back then, well, women weren't makeup artists. Number one, it was a totally a man's world, and women could be hairdressers and women could be body makeup artists, but they couldn't be like makeup artists for movies. So I was always told you can't do that. I proved them wrong.
You sure did. And then some. So just a little bit about that journey. So from 5 years old to holding an Oscar in your hand, that could not have been an easy journey for you, especially, as you just said, in a male-dominated field.
I think it's probably because I kind of went in the back door to it, because I started off, if I can't do makeup, I'll do costumes. And I was working with some rock bands, so I was doing their costumes, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah, please.
It was they were kind of like a space band. So on the tails of, Ziggy Stardust, all that whole scenario. So they wanted to have cool haircuts and, crazy. I dyed their hair colors and did crazy makeups and gave them Spock eyebrows and this shit. And they said, well, this is all well and good, but we want to have big brains and pointed ears. And I said, okay. I said, that's exactly what I want to do, so I'm going to go find out how to do it. So I started attending the Star Trek conventions, which is what we had back then. They didn't have... Comic-Con was actually a comic book convention back then. Right. And this is in the early 70s. And so I went this one time and I met this group of guys who were dressed up like Planet of the Apes. And I've told this story so many times. Sorry if all of you guys are going to hear it again. I walked up to them and I said, "Where did you get those masks?" And they looked at me and they said, "These aren't masks, these are makeups." And I said, "Even better, where'd you get them?" And they said, "Well, we made them." And I said, "Can you teach me how to do that?" And it's like they looked at each other like, really, and they said, "Yeah, but you're a girl." And I said, "I know, isn't it fabulous?" And they let me start hanging out with them up in Santa Barbara, and eventually I fell in love with one of the guys, Steve Neill, and whose last name, we never got married, but I kept his last name because it went better with V. And we are still friends to this day, and he's since remarried and does all kinds of really cool stuff, other kinds of stuff, not in makeup anymore, but basically. But anyway, so he liked making everything, but he didn't care about putting it on so much because he wasn't good around people. I was really great around people, and I loved being on the set, and that's what I wanted to do. So eventually... I digress. I skipped ahead. So anyway, so I met these guys, and they made the big brains and the pointed ears for the rock bands, and I eventually just said, bye-bye, assholes. And I started hanging out with him, and we started doing makeup together. And cut 2.5 years later, they opened the unions to let makeup artists in, and you had to be on a movie that went Signature within this certain amount of time, and I just happened to be on a Western that went Signature within that amount of time, and it was with Christopher Walken and Margot Kidder, and a character actor named Jeffrey Lewis, who if you guys are old enough, you would know who he is, but you're probably not, so anywho.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, well, I might be. Yeah. So anyway, I got in the union and I started, doing stuff. And one of the people that I had met when I was going to those science fiction conventions was Fred Phillips, who did the original Star Trek TV show and Outer Limits and some other stuff. And so we had befriended him, and we would get, when Steve and I were together in those early days, we would get jobs where we would make stuff, but we couldn't put it on because it was a union show, right?
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So we'd call up Fred, and we'd say, hey, Fred, come and do the movie, and blah, blah, blah. And he'd go, yeah, sure, we'll go do it for you. And so he would go put the prosthetics on after we made them. So here I am now, I'm in the union, and the phone rings one day, and it's Fred. And he said, hey, V, he said, they're going to be doing... he said, you worked with Bill Shatner before. And I said, yeah, I did a little low-budget film called Kingdom of the Spiders.
Oh, I love that movie.
So anyway, and I said, yeah, we got along really well. And I had done a couple of other weird personal appearances or something with him. So we were still, talking. And he said, hey, they're gonna make a Star Trek movie. Do you think you want to come work on that with me? And I went, what? Like,
let me think about it.
Yeah, let me. Yeah, I want to go work on that. So that was my first big movie when I got in the union, was Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Look, I even got, this was in the crowd scene, I even got a picture with him.
Very cool.
Isn't that cute?
That is very cool.
Anyway, so that was fun because I did bill for it, and then I also there was an alien on the bridge that had a big forehead guy.
Okay, yeah, I know who you mean, and he's in the big scene in the conference room as well.
I think his name is Xander or something or other. I can't. Nice, yeah, he's in there. And then I would take care of Leonard when he was on the set because Fred was starting to lose his eyesight, and he just wanted to make sure, because he was usually with Bill, so it was easy to do. And then I also put together all the heads for the Klingons and stuff. So I did all the test makeups on all the Klingons for that. Were you asking me about that, or did I just go off on a story?
You keep going. I could listen to you talk about all night. Like,
I don't remember why I was telling you that story.
I said, what was like your journey from 5 years old to...
Well, so anyway, from 5 years old
this is part of it.
cut to, I got on my first big picture was the Star Trek: The Motion Picture with
That's
Fred,
cool.
my mentor. So that was really cool.
So I am a huge Trekkie, and I take a lot of heat, like, because I think over the years there's a new appreciation for that movie. It wasn't well liked for a long time, especially since The Wrath of Khan comes along, and it's so amazing. I like that movie gets more love now than it did in the past.
The thing about this film is they really didn't know how to deal with Star Trek because they were trying, you got to remember, 2001 had come out, and now here you're going to put out some hokey, like, TV show type movie. They didn't want to do that. So I think they were just thinking, well, it's got to be more like 2001. So that's kind of what happened. And, you have one of the biggest directors of all time, Robert Wise, directing that movie. He's not going to make some shitty, cartoony,
right. And
TV.
plus, it's only 2 years after Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to. They were really trying to make a really sophisticated film with these guys. Plus, nobody had seen these guys in a long time, and they wanted it to be slick, and So, and I think the fans were just kind of disappointed that it wasn't more like the TV show. That's why it didn't do well. But it was a great movie. I mean, it was really well acted.
I thought so. I like it.
Yeah, it was beautifully shot. And all the effects were gorgeous, and they did a whole lot of stuff right. It just wasn't what the fans were expecting,
Yeah, I suppose I was just a kid, really, when it came out. So what did I like? I'm just like spaceships.
I was a kid. I think I was
Star Trek, like.
I think I was.
So 1979. I was 11.
20. I was. 25 or 26 when I did that movie. I mean, when we started shooting it.
Wow.
It was it was almost a year long. I think it was 9 months. It was one of the longest movies I ever worked on. I think we had to take a break in between because we had so many of the stages at Paramount that they had to shut down. They had to shut down our show for a minute while they constructed because they had to deconstruct one of the other stages.
Wow.
To build the V'ger set. I think that's what it was. Yeah, the V'ger set. Or they were. Is that it? Oh no, they had to redo it because they needed to build the Klingon set.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it was a long time ago, guys. Got to cut me some slack.
Okay, well, I will allow that your memory is not perfect.
I haven't thought about that in a long time, so you got to kind of think. No, wait, did they take that one down or did they take the other one down? But anyway, we had so many stages that they had to deconstruct a stage in order to do that. So it took a while. They shut down for a while. I think also the V'ger. I think it was sort of. We were shooting that when the V'ger stage was being finished, being built or something. I don't know. It's a little blurry right now.
Awesome. So, is there an aspect of the process that you like more than others? And what I mean by that is, do you prefer doing beauty makeups versus sculpts versus I don't know, some crazy wound or something?
I kind of I like the process of putting makeup on. I don't like the paperwork. I mean, I love doing research, so I like doing things that are, character driven, that are maybe possibly, period pieces or something, but I love fantasy, I love science fiction. Funny enough, I like horror movies if they're psychologically scary. And if they have a monster in, that's okay.
Got it.
But slasher movies is not kind of my thing.
Fair enough.
But I do like horror films, especially if they have a great story to go with them. You know what I mean? Like good ghost stories.
I'm a sucker for a good ghost story.
Because they're scary. That stuff could actually happen.
Right?
You're not going to see a three-headed monster walking out of your basement, but you might see a
I don't know.
ghost.
My basement is very scary, so I do not rule out anything.
You might see a ghost, right, guys?
Across your career, do you have a personal favorite where you were you did a makeup or a sculpt or something where you were that is it. I will never ever forget this one.
No. All the films that I did were so cool and iconic and fun to do, and they were each fun and really enjoyable because of a certain aspect, whether it was an actor that was really great to work with, or if it was like Rick Baker that I got to work with, or Stan, or because Stan was really innovative and he did some really cool stuff, and I loved working with Stan, and he was such a great character. But what was your biggest challenge then? And that's another thing I don't know, because it's like everybody says, well, what was the hardest movie you ever did? Well, if you know how to do the stuff, none of them are hard. I mean, the only thing that makes them hard is if production's shitty to you, or you know what I mean? Or
okay,
there was one of those. I don't talk about those, but I think probably one of the coolest, biggest challenges was getting Robin's makeup on every day the same way and as quickly as possible, because I put him in that makeup 54 times.
Wow.
So
we'll do a quick
yeah, there he is.
Quick show, yeah.
And everything they were overlapping pieces, like eye bags and lips and chin pieces and cheeks, and everything had to overlap exactly the same every day. So that was my job to make sure that they, and they were we're talking like centimeters,
Right.
But if I didn't, and there was any kind of his own skin showing anywhere, if he would start to sweat, these beads of sweat would start popping out, and it would go on all day long. And I'd be fighting that and trying to tack it down, and so that was always dramatic. But so I just made it my mission never to let anything not overlap. So you just had to make sure that you couldn't be hungover. You know what I mean? You had to make sure you were on top of your game. I mean, I remember doing yoga every morning before I went to work because I really wanted to, have everything stretched out, ready to rock. Because when we first did the makeup on him, it was 4 hours long. We said, well, this is not going to fly. 4 hours, we can't do this. So we eventually got it down to 2 hours, and Stefan Dupuis was my assistant on that movie. And he brought in a Laserdisc player, and we showed Robin movies every day. So he would just focus, you know.
Right.
And Robin, funny enough, hadn't really seen a lot of like the classic films. You know, he had never seen Citizen Kane. He hadn't seen To Kill a Mockingbird. He hadn't seen movies like you think everybody in his position would have seen at some point or not. None of them. So Stefan had an extra Laserdisc, or no, we bought a Laserdisc player, something, I can't remember. Anyway, we got a Laserdisc player, and that was like the big thing was Laserdisc back then. So Stefan,
for like a minute.
Yeah. So Stefan had a lot of Laserdiscs with all these classic films. So he brought those in, and we would play those for Robin every morning. So Robin got to see a lot of movies.
That is a cool story.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, so I, here in the New York, New Jersey area, I work on, I'm an indie filmmaker, and I have always been fascinated by movie magic. And one thing that I was very surprised when I started to get involved is how, now this is going to sound wrong, but how deceptively simple some of it really is.
Which parts?
Like just when I see someone as a zombie makeup, and it's just like rolled up paper towel covered with liquid latex, and I'm like,
you can make them, yeah.
And I'm like,
I
wait,
did that on
that's it? Like, like some of it.
Yeah,
you
could do it. I mean, depending on what it is.
You're right.
Because,
like, now, granted, we're indie. We're not a big budget film.
I did a film called Constantine, and the director decided he wanted to add the scene at the end, like I don't know, probably like a dream sequence or something. I don't even remember where it was in the movie or if it even made it in. But there's a thing at the end where these zombies come out of the ocean. And we didn't have it on our budget. We didn't have any prosthetics for zombies or anything like that. So Bill Corso was my assistant at that point. And so Bill and I made these zombies out of toilet paper and paper towels and latex and paint, and they came out really bitchin'. I mean, they came out really cool because we were like peeling off chunks of skin, and we'd have like raw skin underneath and stuff because we didn't have prosthetics, so we just did it out of that, and it worked really good. I mean, it looked really cool.
Yeah, I remember that scene. I know that scene now that you mentioned it.
They were kind of creepy looking and fun, and they were like, this one guy that I did was kind of this really pukey, like baby shit, yellowy green color.
Oh, God.
It was, pardon my French people. Anyway.
Oh, it's all good. My audience is not going to be chagrined by that, that's for sure.
So anyway, it was fun to do. We just literally...
Quick and dirty.
Yeah,
right?
Down and dirty, that's right, exactly. Just like my palette's name, Down and Dirty.
Yes. So one quick question: how do you keep Keith Richards looking so good? Like I saw the Keith Richards picture. I'm like,
that was taken. We shot that shot. We were doing the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, and I just said to the photographer, I said, take a picture of me with the boys. So I jumped in, and he got me a picture.
Very cool.
Because I don't think I took any pictures with Keith when I did his makeup. We were so busy on those films. In fact, I was just saying the other day or just earlier today, I was saying, I did 3 of those pirate movies with Johnny. I have one picture of me doing his makeup. One freaking picture out of 3 movies. And I thought, how was that possible? Well, it was possible because we were so goddamn busy. We never thought to take pictures.
I wish I had been your set photographer. You would have had 10,000 pictures.
Well, they might have them on the set, but I always kind of shied away from getting pictures taken on set because usually we were so haggard. We looked like hell. We had
I believe
no makeup and stringy wet hair and sweating and just
show business is very glamorous, folks.
So glamorous, carrying tons of bags and being dirty and just like it was like gross, right? So anyhow, I used to hide.
One last question before I leave you be.
We're not done. Oh, okay.
I will stay. Listen, I'm having a great.
You're gonna have to edit half of this shit out anyway.
No, it's all staying. Trust me, it's all staying. If there was a piece of advice you could give to another up-and-coming makeup artist who really wants to get into the game, what would that advice be?
Never turn down a job. Just don't pay to do the job. But don't turn it down because that's where you're going to meet the person that's going to give you another job, and then you're going to get another job from that. So, go and do. I mean, the way to get better at your craft is to, practice. So just do, go and you'll always learn something when you're going on these jobs. You'll always, if you don't get paid, you're going to get experience, and that's where it's money right there. So, especially if you're just starting out, just get the experience. Make your mistakes then when you're not getting paid, because they can't do anything to you.
Right? That is some great advice. That might be the best advice I've ever heard.
Well, what do you want? You aren't paying me.
Fantastic. V, thank you so much for a few minutes of your time.
Sure.
It really was... Oh, no. I knew I had one question.
Okay.
I can't believe I was going to forget it. So, what was it? What was that moment like to hear your name called at the Academy Awards? And I apologize if you've been asked that 75,000 times.
You know what? It's okay,
But
because
I'm just a fan at heart, and I really want to know.
I tell you, you know how I knew we won? Because what's her name from Moonlighting? It was Robert Downey Jr. and they were both on Moonlighting, that TV show. Sybil Shepherd.
Yeah, okay. Took a second.
Sorry, Sybil. So Sybil Shepherd couldn't pronounce my name, and I knew immediately we had won because Robert grabbed it out of her hand and said, "Ve Neill, and I remember like jumping up out of my seat and like just fucking hightailing it up to this thing. I'm thinking, are the boys behind me? Oh, well, who cares? I'm going,
That is great.
But, yeah, and, there's this really cool experience you get to have when you get nominated for an Oscar. They have a luncheon where all the nominees are there. So when you're there with everybody, producers, directors, cinematographers, actors, sound people, prop people, whatever, whoever's nominated is there. So you're all on the same level at that time.
Right.
And they tell everybody, okay, you guys, like when they call your name, don't just saunter up there like you have nothing better to do. Go run up there and you just won an Oscar. Right. Run up there and get the goddamn thing, right? So that's all I kept thinking in the back of my head was run up there and get a V, And so I got up there and the boys were right behind me. But oh my God, they tell you you're going to see this screen and it's going to tell you when you have 45 seconds left and they're going to tell you all these things. And I get up there and I remember after we were done with our little speech, we went backstage and I was jumping up and down with Steve and I said, Steve, did you see that screen they were telling us about? He goes, no, I didn't see anything. I was so elated. I saw nothing. It was like white light.
Wow.
That's what it was like. It was like the highest I've ever been in my life. It was just, it was like nothing I will ever experience again.
That is awesome.
My heart was racing and I was blind. I was blinded, literally blinded. I was so excited.
Very cool.
So that's what it was like.
All right. Now I know.
Yep.
And I will never, ever forget that. So now I will say it. V, thank you so much for a few minutes of your time. It really was a thrill for me to spend a few minutes with you. Like I said, I was a big fan. I watched Face Off religiously. And I'm like, okay, what is V going to say? So, but thank you for that. And thank you for being here.
You're very welcome.
And I hope you have a great rest of the weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right. Ve Neill here, everybody, at New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival in Edison, New Jersey. I'm the horror nerd, Todd Staruch, signing off. We will see all of you in the next interview.